Tonight, vaccine approved.
I'm happy about it. I was skeptical at first just because it's a brand new vaccine.
It's official. Canadian health officials give the green light to the Pfizer vaccine. Details on that and how those in the city are reacting. Plus, 2 people are in custody and police are on the hunt for a third suspect after a stabbing in North York leaves a man in critical condition. And
But it's the politicians who refuse to enact safe road design.
hundreds hop on their bikes downtown for a ride to remember cyclists who've died on Toronto roads this year and to call on the province to enact tougher road safety laws. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Well, it's a green light. Canadian health officials have approved a vaccine for use against COVID-19. Doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine should start to arrive next week.
This is a critical milestone in our fight against COVID-19 and in our efforts to provide every Canadian with access to a vaccine.
Canada is one of the first countries to approve the vaccine, launching the biggest vaccination program in the country's history. 249,000 doses are slated to be here by the end of the month, enough to inoculate nearly 125,000 people. The vaccine requires 2 doses. Millions more will come from Pfizer early next year, and there are other vaccine candidates now waiting for approval. It's expected to take most of 2021 to get everyone vaccinated. And for the second day in a row, Premier Ford did not hold his daily press conference, but he did release a statement about today's big news, saying, quote, "This is phenomenal news for all Canadians as we take the next step toward ending this pandemic. As soon as vaccines arrive on Ontario's soil, we will be ready to deliver and administer them." We hit the streets of Toronto to find out how some of you are reacting to the news.
I think it's fantastic. You know, people's life are finally going to go back to normal. We can go back to work. So I think it's great news.
I'm happy that they're doing that. Not comfortable with whether I'm going to get it in the beginning or not. I'm a senior, but I don't know whether I'm going to wait to see what the reaction is and what the effects are.
Hoping that it's when it's approved, it's on point and everybody will be okay when they do get it.
I'm happy about it. I was skeptical at first just because it's a brand new vaccine. I didn't want to be the first person to be taking it, like that kind of stuff, but that's not the case. It's going to nurses first, the elderly first. But yeah, if I can take it and get on with my life and not affect anybody else and they can get on with their lives, I'm happy about it.
Some of the first to get the vaccine will be residents and staff of long-term care homes, and it is desperately needed. Take the case of Sunnycrest in Whitby. It managed to stay COVID-free during the first wave, but is now one of the worst hit in the second. Ali Chiasson spoke to the sister of one of the only residents not to have tested positive recently.
She's 55. Her name's Tina. She suffered a massive stroke almost 3.5 years ago.
Paula Santos' sister lives at Sunnycrest Nursing Home in Whitby.
She was in need of a lot of care, so Sunnycrest was really our only option when she left hospital.
Tina is now one of the only residents who has not contracted COVID. That doesn't mean the outbreak hasn't affected her.
She watched one lady in her room pass away in front of her. The other 2 ladies are in hospital. She was left to fend for herself, no shower in 9 days, medications late, food cold.
According to provincial data, there are 129 cases of COVID among residents and staff. 19 residents have died in this wave. A recent inspection completed November 29th offers a glimpse into why Sunnycrest may be in this situation. Inspectors found no designated screener wearing PPE at the entrance. At least 1 administrator and 1 PSW were not following PPE protocol while interacting with a resident. PPE was locked in the management office. Doors in affected areas were left wide open. Staffing levels were at about 50%.
Who forgets that they need PPE?
When asked about Sunnycrest, the Ministry of Long-Term Care noted that Lakeridge Health has taken the home over. Adding, quote, "We remain committed to doing everything we can along with our partners to help stabilize the home and have it return to normal operations."
The legislature should immediately get to work putting more protections and supports for people in place.
NDP leader Andrea Horvath says the state of long-term care homes must not get buried in the news of the day.
Sunnycrest and in long-term care homes all over the province, people cannot afford for Doug Ford to just do photo ops and wait for a vaccine.
I want anybody out there listening that has loved ones in long-term care to just remind them, their loved ones, that we're going to turn the volume up on this for everybody, not just at Sunnycrest.
As of today, 33 cases at Sunnycrest have resolved. Lake Ridge Health will be running things for the next 90 days. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Whitby.
CBC News has learned that two of the country's major long-term care providers paid out millions in dividends after receiving government relief money for COVID costs. Extendicare and Sienna Senior Living got a combined $157 million in funds. During that time, shareholders received dividends worth almost half of that. Nearly 500 residents in the two companies' facilities in Ontario have died as a result of the pandemic. John Lancaster has this exclusive story.
Luisa Dos Anjos is being taken to hospital by her family. Yesterday, the 75-year-old's left leg was partially amputated after a foot infection festered into gangrene. It happened while she lived here at the Extendicare Halton Hills Care Home in Georgetown, Ontario.
Gangrene doesn't happen overnight. This is our anger towards it, that no one really told us this until about 2 months ago, where it was already too late.
The family's angry the infection wasn't caught sooner. Keeping tabs on their mother in person wasn't always an option for them. COVID-19 restrictions often prevented them from entering the care home or having close contact. The family has since taken their concerns about their mother's care to the home and higher.
We've had many complaints to the long-term care action line. But we're at a standstill because nothing is changing.
They hoped care wouldn't be an issue. After all, Extendicare, a company that operates more than 100 care facilities, has received $104 million in federal and provincial COVID-19 relief money this year. During the same time, it paid out $30 million to its shareholders. Extendicare says none of the public money was used to pay shareholders. Instead, it said it spent $82.2 million on emergency wage subsidies and $20 million of the rest of the money as part of its plan on tackling COVID-19 in its long-term care homes.
Is the worst thing that I have ever had to witness.
In October, Andrea Douglas watched her mother, Mabel, die inside this care home in Toronto's East End. It's one of many run by Sienna Senior Living. The 95-year-old survived COVID there in the spring, only to aspirate this fall on food staff had fed her. The care company also got tens of millions in provincial assistance this year.
You can't just hand them millions of dollars without getting some kind of a balance sheet, something back, some accounting of where these funds have gone.
Sienna received $53 million in COVID-19 assistance. So far this year, it's paid out $45 million to shareholders. The company says it spent much more than that, about $73 million, fighting COVID and keeping residents safe. John Lancaster, CBC News, Toronto.
As we told you yesterday, 3 TDSB schools have been shut down due to COVID-19 outbreaks. And now teachers and education workers are calling on the province and the school board to conduct more asymptomatic testing. The open letter also calls for an extension of the winter holiday break, saying, quote, "We are calling on Toronto Public Health and the provincial government to move all Toronto schools to online learning beginning January 4th for at least the first 2 weeks after New Year's Day, in order to ensure schools do not contribute to the spread of COVID-19 in the post-holiday period." 6 TDC buses, which have been retrofitted to create mobile COVID-19 testing sites, will roll out this week, bringing testing to the doorstep of people in the city's hard-hit areas.
So this is our basic testing setup. Really, it's 4 walls and a roof for us with some basic office space. Clients will come in the front door, go through that information gathering process, and then they proceed out towards the back door where the actual swab will take place. At that point, once the swab is done, they're good to go, and the result follow-up process takes place beyond that.
The buses will head first to the Rexdale area in Etobicoke. They've already gone out on a few trial runs in the late summer and early fall. The TTC says the buses being used had already been decommissioned and are not coming from available bus service. Well, turning now to some of our other top stories. A memorial bike ride was held downtown this evening in honor of cyclists killed this year on GTA roads, including the 23-year-old woman who was fatally struck last week on Dufferin Street. Toronto police say she was the fourth cyclist to be killed since September. As Dahlia Ashry reports, those at tonight's ride are calling on the province to do more to protect them.
Sounding the alarm. When it comes to road safety, hundreds of cyclists cycled from Spadina and Bloor to Queen's Park. A moment of silence with blinking lights in memory of those who've died, including the 23-year-old woman who died outside Dufferin Mall last week.
It's just become clear that we accept deaths as the result of tiny mistakes, whether it's on the part of a cyclist or a driver.
But the real responsibility on this is not necessarily the drivers, but it's the politicians who refuse to enact safe road design.
NDP MPP traffic critic Jessica Bell is pushing the province to implement a Vision Zero road safety plan.
That would mean tougher enforcement, better education of road rules, and engineering changes, which can be as practical as just setting up bike lanes in areas that cyclists use a lot.
Organizers of today's ride say they are also working to pass Bill 62, which calls for stronger action against drivers who, while breaking an existing driving law, kill or injure a pedestrian or cyclist.
Bill 62, that would be a good start. And I think another thing that would help is if we eventually got to the point where every 5 years when you go to renew your license, retest everybody.
At the city level, Councillor Anna Bailau submitted a motion today calling for expedited safety measures on Dufferin Street following last week's fatality, including consideration of traffic signal installations, red light cameras, speed enforcement cameras, and a review of lighting on the street. Meanwhile, with winter weather making the road conditions more unpredictable, there is this advice.
You must slow down. You must look more carefully for people that are dressed in dark winter clothing. When it comes to cycling, wear brighter colors if you can, and always make sure your bike is lit at night. Ride to conditions, but just everyone has to share responsibility.
In response to the call for action, Ontario's Ministry of Transportation told CBC in a statement that it reviews its policies on an ongoing basis and continues to explore options to improve road user safety. Dahlia Ashry, CBC News, Toronto.
A stabbing in North York tonight has left a man in critical condition. Police were called to the area of Wilson Avenue and Champlain Boulevard near Allen Road just before 5 o'clock. They found a man suffering from stab wounds. He was rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries. Police located a suspect vehicle and took 2 women into custody. A third suspect fled on foot and was last seen running eastbound on Wilson Avenue. He's described as a black man wearing a dark blue jacket with fur on the hood and gold slippers. Anyone with information is asked to call police. And fire lit up the sky in Liberty Village last night, and explosions echo through the neighborhood after a fire started inside a tent at an encampment at Lamport Stadium. The fire chief says 3 propane cylinders were found inside the tent. 2 people sustained significant injuries. 1 is in hospital. Dozens of others staying in the encampment were offered shelter at the respite center last night, but city staff say they all declined. We spoke to a homeless advocate who says people in the encampments are afraid they will be exposed to COVID-19 inside the city shelters.
So there's risk inside, there's risk outdoors. The strategy the city is taking right now is forcing some of our most vulnerable residents to choose between fire and disease.
Today, the mayor defended shelters, saying they have taken measures to keep them safe. Right now, there are only 6 cases of COVID-19 in the shelter system. Toronto Fire says crews have responded to over 200 fires this year involving people who are sleeping outdoors.
It felt like if we found the place that we feel safe in, we can't just forget about those who were left behind.
Still ahead tonight, how two young sisters who came to Canada as refugees from Syria are using their shared passion for art to help support those struggling back in their home country. Plus,
a little more sunshine in our forecast for Thursday, at least compared to today. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. I also have to tell you about a storm that's going to move in towards the weekend. That's all coming up after the break.
it's been a service that was provided to make sure people got home safe, but now it's being taken away so that people stay safe. The TTC won't be offering its free New Year's Eve service this year. In the past, the company and sponsors would encourage people to use the free transit as a safe way to get home. But given the current restrictions, the TTC says it doesn't want to encourage partying and is asking everyone not to gather for big celebrations. Whoa! And a happy update on an already heartwarming story of survival that we brought you earlier this week. A bald eagle that was found nearly dead in Havelock near Peterborough is released back into the wild. The bird was given a second chance at life thanks to a community that came together to raise money in support of its recovery. And our Colette Kennedy brought us that story and joins us now. And Colette, such a happy ending. It makes your heart soar when you see that eagle take flight back home into the wild.
Thanks, Kelda. Oh, that is such an amazing end to the story, and really just the beginning of the second part of this eagle's life. I wonder what memory he's going to have all of this, but love seeing people doing good deeds and having it have an impact like that on our wildlife. Amazing story. All right, let's talk about what's happening with the weather in terms of what we're going to be seeing. Getting a little bit milder in terms of our temperatures, especially as we head towards Friday. But what's also nice is we should get a little more sunshine on Thursday as well, so it may be a little bit slow to get going in the morning, but then we'll see some sun becoming variable in terms of our sky, so we're not going to lose the clouds altogether, although a different story into southwestern Ontario. Now, the warmer temperature trend carries on till the end of the weekend pretty much. It's actually Sunday we'll see those temperatures beginning to slide off on us, and that's the storm track coming in because of the mild temperatures. It looks like it'll be central Ontario, and again, this could shift with the tracking, but central Ontario with more of the snow and freezing rain and more of a rain event with just a bit of a mix for the GTA and points further south and along the lower Great Lakes. So here's a look at your daytime highs from today. 4 degrees in Toronto. Windsor, hoped you get a little bit milder than that, but still, I don't know if anyone's complaining about 5 degrees. Hamilton just 2 there, and Kitchener, same thing at 2 degrees. And overnight, this is that clearing I'm talking about. You're seeing it more significant in southwestern Ontario. At least that's what's happening with this model. Now, there is another one that wants to give a little more cloud cover, but I'm putting more faith in this in terms of what I'm seeing with some of the components and what's going on. Into tomorrow, some of that cloud cover into the morning around the GTA, certainly up into cottage country, but then kind of clearing. So that's why it becomes more of a mix, or sort of changing through the day in terms of our skies when I say that they're going to be variable. Kind of a different scenario, though, further east and into central Ontario. And then, you know, we'll also be seeing the setup for the beginning of Friday looking okay. It's that as we go into the afternoon, more cloud cover is going to start to arrive. And that's arriving because of that system that's going to be on our doorstep and bringing the rain in on Saturday. It looks like it may be a little slower than anticipated, so perhaps towards midday Saturday before the precipitation comes in. Temperatures where you have the clearing overnight tonight, -3, where there's still some cloud cover, like a little blanket. London at 0 there. Tomorrow afternoon, there's your warm-up because you'll have more sunshine here. Now, for the Golden Horseshoe tonight, still some flurries certainly possible. A little bit of lake effect. That's more towards cottage country. It may reach you towards Markham as well. A few little isolated showers. But really, for tomorrow afternoon, this is what we're looking at, with temperatures running about 3 degrees above seasonal. And I said it gets milder into Friday, and I did mean that. So the high on Friday about 7, with clouds increasing, and then our storm comes in on the weekend, so those temps will fall off on Sunday as the day wears on. Kelda.
Thanks so much, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
They are two sisters with a shared love of art who found a way to use their passion to help others. Sidra and Shahed Al-Shamali came to Canada as Syrian refugees. A year ago, they began creating drawings depicting life in the refugee camp. This year, during the pandemic, they had time to further cultivate their skills, turning their drawings into postcards to raise awareness and funds for those struggling back in their home country. Here's my interview with them.
We left Syria when I was 4 years old, and it was tremendously hard for me to see destruction in front of my eyes because our home was being destroyed. I honestly do not remember anything except the fear that when the bombs came crashing our land, and I got so scared when I heard the bombs.
Sidra and Shahed Al-Shamali escaped to Turkey with their family, and in 2016 they arrived in Toronto as refugees. How did it feel when you first got here?
I felt that this is the place that we're gonna live our life in happily, and I felt like that everybody was really welcoming and really nice. And even though Canada is very cold, the love and the hope that was spread by the people here made us feel very warm, and this made me feel very wanting to help others.
They are doing that through art, creating pieces on canvas depicting the lives of Syrian children living in refugee camps.
Elegant Art, that's our project name. It was our passion to draw. We wanted to share how people are suffering in our country. The idea started of us seeing those Syrian children who are suffering, and we felt like if we found the place that we feel safe in, we can't just forget about those who were left behind. This is about kids dreaming of things they're not capable of getting, like hats or teddy bears, and they're hoping that they can get to a point where they'll be able to get those things.
In May, the sisters joined forces with Cute Roots Cards to turn their drawings into plantable postcards.
Here we have a picture of a girl holding her teddy bear. She has hope that everything will get better.
Proceeds from sales of the postcards go towards supporting Moham Team, a relief organization that helps displaced Syrians.
This is about two kids trying to get warm by the fire because it's very cold. This is in winter.
When you think about those who are back there who are suffering, how does that make you feel?
I feel so sad because they're suffering and we're just here living in peace. Those children want to live their childhood playing and having fun, but instead are having to see the dark side of the world at a young age and having to suffer. The pandemic gave us a chance to develop talents we didn't have time to develop in regular days. We hope we can inspire others to take action because I believe that children can make a change.
And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.